Hey guys, Jimmy Song here, off chain. I've been gone for about a week in Los Cabos. I usually get away during South by time when I can. Anyway, I just came back yesterday. I wanted to do a show and just sort of like make sure that you guys didn't miss me too much, I guess. Anyway, what is going on? Let me see. You know what? I forgot to open the live chat because that's kind of important for this sort of thing. Let's see. Where is the chat? There it is. Pop out chat. There we go. There's my pop out chat. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. Just a few things. I read a few books during vacation. I don't get to read as many books. One of the things that they don't tell you when you're becoming a content producer is that you don't really get time to consume as much content anymore after you start producing it. So it was kind of good to have a chance to like read some books and stuff like that. I read three books. One was Skin in the Game. That's Nassim Taleb's new book. Really good book. Has a lot of concepts I think that relate to Bitcoin. Specifically, if you don't have skin in the game, then you're not really credible. And I mean, you can dismiss people like Craig Wright for a lot of reasons, but this is cheap, like a very cheap heuristic that you can use to dismiss him is the fact that he doesn't have any skin in the game, and it costs him nothing to claim that he's Satoshi, right? Like that's a very obvious thing. All right. What other stuff? I read another book, Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules of Life. Really good book. A lot of stuff about creation and destruction and that whole cycle, and just sort of mentally what you need to prepare for, and how to just like have a good outlook on life and be productive and things like that. Again, I saw a lot of things that I thought related a lot to Bitcoin. There is sort of like a creative destructive cycle, and going back to sort of like Nassim Taleb's thing about anti-fragility. I think that's where anti-fragility really comes from, is sort of like the cycle of creation and destruction. A lot of people are in Bitcoin and have been in Bitcoin, but they've fallen out of favor or whatever because they get bought out or they sold their souls to an ICO or whatever. Anyway, it was another really good book. The third book I'm still in the middle of reading, but it's pretty good. It's called Elephant in the Brain, and it talks about sort of like hidden biases and things like that. It goes to explain a whole ton of stuff, sort of psychologically, and like why people go to university, even though like almost every study says that you don't actually learn that much and stuff like that. Anyway, a lot of stuff has been happening in the last week. I haven't gotten to quite pay attention to most of it, but I did hear about LND doing their first beta release. Very exciting stuff. There's a lot of people like sort of crapping on it the past week or whatever. I wouldn't necessarily pay attention to them. That's just sort of what happens with all kinds of new technology. In fact, you should be very skeptical when people are only positive about some technology. That means that somebody has an agenda, or they spent an inordinate amount of money on marketing, which tends to not bode very well. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff happening in that area. I'm really looking forward to it. I still want to make that video on how to run a Lightning node, so I'll probably do that with the LND stuff pretty soon. That said, I am headed off to Hong Kong tomorrow for Token 2049 and my seminar and some Hong Kong Bitcoin meetups, and then after that I'll be in Seoul. I think I announced San Francisco programming blockchain as well. That's going to happen next month. Really exciting stuff. I'm looking forward to like teaching more and things like that. It's always exciting to bring new devs into the space and stuff. All right, so let's get into some of these questions. We've been doing a lot of different things. Okay, I was hoping Jimmy didn't rage quit Bitcoin like Richard Hart. Yes. Yeah, I don't know what happened with him, but yeah, a lot of Yeah, I don't know. I hear he's in Finland or something. All right. Things Jimmy missed. Tone talking to Cliff. I haven't watched that yet. Abra running on Litecoin. Yeah, that looks really interesting. And I gotta say, like, the whole Abra thing. There's a blog post. Maybe I could share it. Give me a second. Let's see. Where is Abra? Abra blog. There it is. And let's share this screen. Application window. There it is. Abra's new decentralized investing technology platform. And this was released Thursday. Actually, why can't you guys see it? All right, so maybe something is up. All right, let's stop screen sharing and then go to screen 2. All right, now you guys can see it. All right, and this goes on to talk about sort of the actual announcement behind Abra. Really interesting because they have a bunch of stable coins as part of it. It says Abra has been using stable coins in USD, EUR, JPY, KRW, etc., and our platform has already been seeing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of transactions using the same technology. So somehow they have some sort of stable coin on their platform, and that allows them to trade against Bitcoin or Litecoin, or it looks like tons of other things. And Abra is aimed more at sort of casual users, and the fact that this happens sort of behind the scenes is completely hidden for the most part to a lot of other people. So it's a really interesting sort of tech. I haven't investigated too much. I have been in contact with Bill Barr. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but yeah, he's going to tell me more, and we can figure that out. Yeah, but LND I think is the big story this week, and it will be sort of the big story going forward for a little bit. Obviously there's been some criticism of it. I don't understand this criticism. It sort of assumes a whole bunch of things about how Lightning will develop, and this is one of the most perilous things to do when you have a new technology, is to tell everybody exactly how it's going to get used. Because until the rubber meets the road, until sort of users have a chance to play with it and figure out exactly what they want to do with it, you have no idea. So a lot of these criticisms stem from sort of an assumption that there will be sort of a centralized hub and everyone will connect to it, and then it reduces everybody's privacy and stuff. But I think that's a very naive way of looking at the technology or how it will develop. You have no idea what you would call the network topology will be. And it's very important that you don't make assumptions like that, because you're going to be wrong, right? Like this is exactly kind of like what Krugman did with the internet back when it started. He said, "How come or it might not have been Krugman, but it was somebody else that said, how come my mall does more business than the internet does?" Stuff like that. Because moron, you couldn't predict exactly how it would develop, and that like 20 years later, malls are going out of existence because the internet is eating your lunch. So that sort of thing is very important to not make too many predictions on, or you're going to look like a moron. And just kind of like a lot of the people with the internet or with the cell phone or whatever, the people that sort of say the FUD, they don't. I think they're doing it. I don't know why they're doing it, but I think they're sort of mistaken or misled or whatever. And until the technology gets to the market, we don't really know. And that said, let's be humble here. It's possible that Lightning will completely revolutionize everything, or it could be that people still don't want to spend their Bitcoin. That's entirely possible. It may very well be that people value Bitcoin more as a store of value, and they don't want to spend Bitcoin even in like sub-Satoshi amounts because they want to keep their Bitcoin, right? Like they may very well want to do that. We don't know. This is one of the things that we need to find out from the market and figure out what it is that the market actually wants, instead of sort of like projecting our biases or desires onto the entire ecosystem. I mean, that's not how it works. There's like calling it a Rube Goldberg machine is stupid because like you don't know how it's going to get used, and that sort of prediction tends to come and bite you. I mean, not that there haven't been bad predictions by people saying that in the past, but anyway. All right, let's take a look at some of these questions. Jimmy, the price is down, but from your position, has investment and development been softening? As far as I can tell, investment continues to be really strong. There's a lot of people at least wanting to invest in the ecosystem. The demand for my seminars still continues to be pretty high. The demand for lots of Bitcoin conferences and stuff like that hasn't softened any. There's tons of people that are coming into the space, that are interested in the space. It seems to be doing very well. I will take note, though, I should stop going to Mexico because I was on vacation in Mexico and Bitcoin dropped a lot. The last time I was in Mexico was during Satoshi Roundtable, and Bitcoin dropped to like 5,700 or something like that. So I'm going to avoid Mexico as much as I can because it seems like every time I go to Mexico, something bad happens. Anyway, let's see. Jimmy, do you think we will ever see blockchain technology applied to government-controlled applications? Well, depends what you mean by blockchain technology, and this is one of the big confusions in this space in general, is that people don't really know what they mean when they say blockchain technology. Do you mean just a database with permissioned rows and like just a really finely grained access control list or something like that? Because that's different than what Bitcoin uses for blockchain. And or do you mean just like a chain of blocks, or do you mean some sort of centralized database that's got some permissioning things, or do you mean like a fully decentralized application like Bitcoin is? Like if you have just sort of like database plus some permissioning, I think most companies can do something like that. But if you're relying on sort of like all of the things that Bitcoin does, which is everyone has to know about every transaction, everyone gets to know, has to receive it, store it, verify it, all that stuff. That's not something that's really suited for almost every other application. And the thing about any government control application, well, if you have it government controlled, that's centralized by definition. So in that sense, I don't think that it's like tautologically impossible to have a blockchain technology that's government controlled, because blockchain technology, at least as I define it, requires some sort of decentralization. All right, let's see, what else is there? Love the hat. Wonder where Jimmy Song went. Thanks for coming back. Yeah, no problem. What do you think of blockchain analysis tools like BlockSci? Yeah, I mean, those are a little bit scary, and I think they will accelerate adoption of more privacy-generating features and things like that. Obviously, a lot of stuff is going into that regard. I did get to go to core dev meeting like earlier this month, and really, really enlightening. But I think Kanzu or Brian Bishop on Twitter posted a transcript of like the BIP 150 discussion, and it's like way overkill for what's needed. But Peter Wolla had come up with this sort of handshake that's like way better than SSH. You get to know nothing. Neither party gets to know anything about the other than this. Does this key allow me to log on to this server? really, really clever. And I was looking at it. We did find the flaw. So there's some information that might leak if you do certain things a certain way. But really, like, that's sort of the level that you want to get to, right? Is that you want to overdo things from a security and privacy perspective. You don't want any sort of information to leak, and that's the sort of thing that moves this industry, this art forward, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, blockchain analysis tools, they're obviously useful for law enforcement and things like that, and they continue to be used by them to catch criminals or whatever, and that's. I mean, to some degree, I guess that's fine. Law enforcement certainly has a right to do whatever to, look on the blockchain, just as all of us have. But, as far as like fungibility and stuff like that, it does sort of add a little bit of danger there. So I think privacy is coming sooner rather than later, but soon being like 2 to 3 years, not like 1 to 2 months like people expect or something like that. Again, this is not web development here. This is, this is really secure financial stuff. So, things take a long time. Is BCAP an equity token? Yes. Welcome back. When says tons of people, what amount of people do what? I don't understand that question. What are your views on the Cardano project? I haven't looked into it, honestly, so I don't really know. But I think they have their own token or something like that. And I'm generally skeptical of new tokens. Let's see. In Tone's video a few minutes ago, you said to study something. What? I wasn't on Tone's video, so I don't know what. How many investors are in the world? Number of BTC? I don't know what that means. All right. I do think voting could use the transparency. Say all Congress members had to abide by blockchains for their finance. So transparency is different than what a blockchain is. So transparency can be achieved, relatively easy with just like message signing and things like that. So say a politician has some tax returns. I mean, they already sort of can release their tax returns whenever, the public demands and they're willing. And that's easy enough. And, you could sort of do that. But that's different than a blockchain. I think that's what it means to a lot of people, is that it is some sort of like audit trail for everything that gets spent. And certainly something like that for the federal government would be great, because we have no idea how much is being spent on like a lot of these programs. And, especially like the military and the CIA and the NSA, they just sort of hide all of their budget items and receive very little oversight. Some accountability, especially with the Fed, would be extremely useful. But is that going to happen with like sort of blockchain technology? I mean, maybe. I don't know. I think it's much more sort of, they need to give an accounting and have audits that are visible to the public that people can sort of analyze on their own. That would be great, but that's still not blockchain technology. That's just a database that's open to the world, and that isn't it. That's an immutable database is what people really mean. And there are already technologies like that. It's just not being applied. And the fact of the matter is, most of the world, outside of the narrow sphere of tech, is actually really technologically backward. They have stuff that's built in the 80s or something like that, that isn't very up to date, that don't take advantage of all of the different things. And if you've ever done like enterprise sales to governments or something like that, the sales cycles are insane. They're like 3 years to sell to like some government entity, and by then it's like you've had to go through all sorts of RFPs and like all sorts of committees that get to vote on whether or not it's a complete mess. So So, I don't expect any sort of government innovation anytime soon. That's just the nature of politics and how long things like that take. And, as soon as like an election happens, it just like those sales are so fragile. It just, which is why like government doesn't get very good products. It's because, the only ones that are willing to stick it out are the ones that sort of depend on it and put it all in that one basket. Anyway, are you still able to teach classes? How does that happen? Are you familiar with the business launch code? I am able to teach classes. I'm doing so in Hong Kong. Just email me, look at my website, programmingblockchain.com, and you can figure it out. I'm not familiar with launch code, though. How do you feel about other cryptocurrencies using DAG or Hashgraph? I think Hashgraph's stupid. I think I said it before. It looks like a giant trusted mempool. You shouldn't trust a mempool if there's any sort of adversarial stuff. IOTA's had a whole bunch of problems with rolling their own crypto. The whole idea behind DAG is that you can have like, a block instead of a blockchain, you have different parts of the chain that sort of merge back and stuff. And I think that's stupid. I think you should just stick. I don't see how that improves anything, and you're more or less making it more complicated for the protocol in order to get not much gain. And from what I hear, IOTA is pretty centralized anyway. I have not looked at Peter Thiel's latest take on Bitcoin. Let's see. What are your feelings on NEO? Haven't looked into it. All right. Well, anyway, I think that's about it. That's been about 20 minutes or so. I just wanted to say hi to you guys. I do miss doing these videos. But yeah, I was on vacation. I'm still writing my book. I am now about 5 chapters finished. Well, not finished. I at least have the skeleton there. I got to put some more meat on those bones. But yeah, that's you can go look at it in my GitHub, github.com, Jimmy Song, programming-Bitcoin. I'm working on chapter 6. I really want to have like at least the skeletons done by early April. I am going to spend a whole ton of time on planes in the next couple of weeks. So the plan is to just write as much as I can on the planes. And now that I'm recharged a little bit, I can do that. But yeah, it's good to be back. Anyway, this song is done.